Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be starting as the nation of Sparta, right down here on this little chunk of land with all these little countries. And so we're going to be starting with mixed gender rules on, because there's really no reason not to, and then we're going to hit start. So right here, you automatically start off with Alexander the Great, and that's really just applies to most of the nations in this area. Pretty much no matter which country you start off as, you're going to have a lot of things that need to be dealt with, and some of these are more minor and more major than others. Like some don't need to be dealt with, but some do. So we're going to start off with, we're going to skip this because that is a thing that you kind of do want to do after you fix all the other problems, because they could potentially resolve that. So we're going to start off with imports. You can see here we have a lot of available imports, and we are going to first, we're going to look at what imports we have. You can see that we are only importing these, no military goods except for iron. So we are going to import horses and some other military goods, so we can start getting our army up to scratch. And now we're going to look at some other available goods. We could go for another one of these and get more manpower or population capacity, but we are going to go for the slave happiness, because that is in general a good thing to have active, and that will greatly affect the game. So then we're gonna start with the lack of commander, and this is just really easy. You just have to appoint a commander, because at the beginning of the game there's no commanders already appointed. Now we're going to move on to pretender support. As you can see here, it looks like a really confusing window, and you can see that there are a lot of names. So you might be wondering, who the heck is so important that all these people are all willing to support and potentially betray their nation for? So we're going to head over to the government tab here, and you can see under the possible successors, you can see most of them are disloyal except this little baby, and he's only 1 year old, so he really probably doesn't have much of an opinion on politics. So you have pretenders. You can see at the top, it's in red, pretender, and pretender. So all three of these guys are all disloyal, meaning that they are pretenders, and so all these people are supporting these pretenders. And you can see that this child here is the primary heir, and so they're all probably kind of jealous that this little kid is the primary heir. And so that's really not much you can do about that, at least in the beginning, unless you want to go through every single one of these people and kind of manually adjust their loyalty. You can see it, even like some of the loyalties are pretty high, but they just choose to support the pretenders. So we're going to skip that again, and then we're going to have the unmarried ruler here. So this is a pretty easy thing to fix. You're going to go to the arranged marriage, and then you're going to find whichever person you want. Typically, you're going to want the best one with the best qualities, meaning these things that are suited to you. So we're just going to go for this person. Then arrange festivities, and you can see that our spouse. So invention tab with the size for update. Now we're going to head over to the invention tab. The invention tab with the size for update has now been kind of changed quite a bit. So now you have to pay for inventions rather than paying with one of the power windows, which was earlier in the game and was replaced by this window. And so initially in the game, you can see this is about half of our current money that we have, and that's really not what we want to be spending. We want to more be spending on growing, getting more troops so we can potentially expand our nation. And so we're not going to do this. This is completely optional. You can see that there are some good things, but they're not what you want to be doing right at the start. That's more maybe when you've developed your nation and you're a lot richer and you do have the money to spare spending on. So the Omen tab, this has also been reworked by the new Archimedes update. You can check it out in the tutorial video I did on it, but here you can see that we do have a lot of temples in our nation. If you can see in the religious map mode, you can see that they're in the area, and so we are going to go with actually changing Hellenic density, so we do get higher morale armies. So what this is going to do, now we're not going to be able to select a new density. So now as you can see that there's this god has replaced the other god, and you will be able to call upon him in another 3 years, but you can still choose another god. So we're going to go with some additional political influence. then we're just going to click the little picture there and then click OK. And so now it'll that little blur right there, and then we're going to move on to available decisions. So available decisions, this is only if you you're only going to have available decision at the start of the game if you did hit embrace social equality, and then at any time you can always unembrace it. There's really no reason to do it. So free idea slots, that'll just pop up your nation over your window, and you'll select some ideas. So as you can see here, we have 2 military ideas and 1 oratory idea, and we can choose whichever idea we want for here, because you can see we can choose whichever one we want. But if we choose all of these, and so 2 military and then 1 oratory here, we will get this bonus right here, which we're going to do. So we're going to go with morale armies, and then we're going to go with army morale recovery and reinforcement speed. Reinforcement speed is kind of a little known thing that's still really good, because that's when you lose men, you'll see there's a need for 0 men, but once it gets like higher, maybe 10,000, that'll increase the speed of the men joining your army, or the generation speed of your army. So for oratory, you're going to pick the loyalty of generals and admirals, because that's great, because they don't betray you later on, which is really a good thing. And then you can see that appears as a check, and we do get that bonus. So now that we've kind of dealt with all the things that are immediately able to be dealt with, you can see that because some of our decisions, our stability has dropped drastically to 35. So 50 is kind of the midpoint, and 35 is pretty low, and you can see there's a lot of negative things that are happening with that. And so we might, as you can see here, 2 of them disloyal characters were fixed by all that we did, so that's why you kind of want to see these for last. So you see this guy is disloyal, you can see their loyalty is at 18, and you can see that they are a pretender, and their power base of the supporters is high, meaning all of these people. So there's really not much you could do, because these 2 things are kind of tied together, and this person will pretty much be disloyal for the rest of the game, unless you decide to maybe bribe them or give them free hands, which will increase their loyalty temporarily. And so we're just going to unpause here. As you can see now, the timer is going to start to kick forward. Right here you have a speed menu where you can slow down to be really slow, and then you can speed up. I typically like to do it at this speed, because that'll get the game moving a bit faster. You can see we immediately have a couple of alliance offers. So 2 of them from this country, wherever it is down here, and from another country, this one right here. And so initially, in the beginning of the game, you are going to get a decent amount of alliance offers, depending like what nation you are. But we are going to choose to, because this nation is over here, it's really not like much of our concern, because our navy we'll have to increase the size to at least 4 to be able to transport the troops, and really we don't have much business being on this island until later on in the game, where we might decide to conquer it. So we'll hit decline, and then for this one, we are going to, you can see they do have 3 cohorts, and they are at a potentially strategic position for us to maybe try and take out these 2 nations or this nation right here, so we are going to accept that offer. And at any time, you can always cancel an offer, but that will give the country a casus belli and a truce. And you can see that kind of unlocks some sites into the other nations around here. So at the beginning of the game, especially when you start off as a bit of a smaller nation, even though we are a relatively large nation for this little area around here, you're going to want to start to think about expanding. Because if you don't, say this nation right here, if they take out the nations over here, they're not going to be a lot larger than us, and even if we have a slightly better economy, they're going to be able to field more men because they have higher manpower, and they're probably going to get more. They're also going to get a lot more taxes, which increase their army size. So you can see they have 3 cohorts, which is essentially 3,000 men. You can see we have 4 cohorts. And so we are going to want to increase the size of our army. And really, if you're going to take out a nation as the aggressor in the war, you're going to want, especially with not that many cohorts, like 4, maybe if you have 100, that's a bit different, but you're going to want maybe roughly twice the size of their army. So you can really, everything goes smoothly, especially when taking over forts, which does require a higher number of men. So before you recruit any troops, what you're going to want to note is, first of all, the treasury tab right up there. Keep moving the screen, sorry. So you can see we're going up by 1.44. And so you can see that we're already paying 1.76 for army maintenance, but that's not really too important. So you can see the archers, don't cost that much. You can see camels and the heavier units are going to cost more compared to the lighter units. And so what you're going to want to do, especially initially, you might not be able to afford these units, especially since they are kind of expensive and really aren't very necessary in the beginning of the game. So we're going to go with 2 archer units, and then 1 light cavalry, and you can see that now they've all grayed out. And you might be like, why is that? Well, because we have run out of money, or at least enough money to spend on these troops. So we're going to need to wait till a bit later in the game, again, while you want this to be unpaused, so we can generate that money every month. We'll get to that much. And so if you want a more advanced tutorial on all of these windows right here, in depth of every single window up here, you might want to watch my video on basic tutorial for everything up here, and the map as well. So you can see those cohorts were recruited, and we do have another thing right here. And for these, you'll get them continuously throughout the game, maybe once every month or 2, and they can be short like this one or pretty long, and they can take a while to read, especially adding on. You might spend a lot of your time reading these, so you typically just want to look down here, except if it's a really important thing that requires. So we're gonna go with national tax, so we can get a bit higher of money. This has popped up right on my screen. We've been insulted by none other than our allies that we just newly formed up with. So they want to provoke war, and so they've insulted us, and so that's not good. That does give us a casus belli against them, so we might, and they do want to break our alliance. So in this case, what you're going to want to do, if you really want to preserve the alliance, you might want to try increasing your opinion. As you can see, it's pretty bad. You'll go into relation and improve opinion. You can send an insult like they did to us, or send a gift. In this case, we're going to kind of let the situation settle, maybe resolve itself. We are going to unpause, and then we'll see if they really want to break free. It will start into war, and potentially let us take out that little place right there, because we are clearly a bit stronger, although they do have another ally. You can see they have decided to break our alliance. Instead of a couple of seconds, they decided to break the alliance. So now we are no longer allies with them. That's kind of unfortunate, but that's how it works. And you can see their army has been increasing in size. So with this new events, we might want to start maybe getting allies over here. And so if you want to get an alliance with someone, we're going to want to head to the alliance tab and then offer an alliance. You can see they will refuse by that X. If you ask, it'll just decrease the opinion. Really, you won't get anything from it. And you can see they are planning our demise. So it appears that most people around here are not very friendly, except for these guys, which, if you remember, we were maybe considering a bit about declaring war on. So we are going to offer an alliance, and they will accept, because there's a check there. And so now we are in alliance with them, and they are currently being absolutely destroyed. That leads me to another tip. Before you form an alliance, especially if they're maybe unusually willingly, maybe check if someone is absolutely destroying them in war, aka these guys. See that they are laying siege, but this army is very low in morale, which you see that little yellow bar as just about non-existent. And so now you can see another reason why they might have wanted for us to join the alliance. They're calling us to arms, and so they want us to assist in their war against this nation Leopron, and we are going to accept, because we could potentially take out this land and another war. So yeah, that's kind of a thing happening with these smaller nations. You're going to have a lot of wars going on, a lot of kind of scrambling. You see that these guys have already started to attack. So we are going to kind of go in here, because if you saw over there, they just took out an army. So we're gonna try and defend our land before we kind of attack theirs. Or defend theirs. And you can see they have come over to help us, which is nice of them. And so, since it's a neighbor nation, it's going to be relatively a good place for us to maybe take out. You can see there's a bars right here, which means that we did imprison that character, and we did take out that entire army. And when you imprison someone and take out the entire army, it subtracts from their cohorts, and they cannot regenerate it. They'll have to start a completely new army. And so let's hit OK. And you can see the two wars down here, in which this one, in which we are war with this entire area over here, is going well for us. We have a war score of 6. That's just because we took out that army. And and when you're at war with someone, you might wonder, like, how many troops do they have, and do they have more than I do? So you're going to want to head over to that war tab we were just in. Up here is a collection of all the troops and ships that each side has. So this side has 11,000 archers and 2,000 heavy infantry. And we have 2,000 heavy infantry, so we match them with that. We have 5,000 less archers, but we do have 4,000 more men. So we're just about even. Archers, typically you have an army of 11,000 archers. That's not going to go the best for you, especially when you don't have much other things to defend that army with. So you can see our army has, or our treasury has increased a bit. And so we're going to look at increasing the size of an army. But you might be wondering, you can see this army is bearing down upon us, and you can see that green thing, which is why I'm not quite as alarmed, because that means that we should win the battle. And as well, you can see that yellow morale line is just about the halfway mark, meaning that they've already essentially been half defeated, because that's how battle works. The morale determines if you retreat or you continue to fight. So we are going to recruit 2 more of these, actually 3 more, because we're going to want to, especially in war, you can recruit more than your economy can kind of handle initially at the start of the war, because some of your men probably are going to die inevitably, and that will you're not paying them anymore, so you can kind of get a bit of advantage there. As you can see, we did manage to take them out, but our men are looking a bit depleted from what they were, by about 1,000, which is not too big. You can see there's additional reinforcements coming over to benefit the siege. And for sieges, you can see here, it goes up in percents. And then we do have news from nation over here, but that doesn't really affect us too much, because they are all the way over here. And we are no longer importing olives, because most likely of war, or a nation that we were taking the olives from was taken out. So we're gonna just remedy that problem really quickly. And olives, you can see that we are no longer able to import, because we do not have the money to do that. And our economy is kind of going down a bit, but we should be able to recover, especially if they do decide to attack, which they're not. They're regenerating their morale. And so the siege, you can see here, there's various chances, and their surrender. It's really a dice game, and once they surrender, we take out this area and the land around it. And so you just took out the area. They will have to re-siege it, even though it was initially their city, if they want to take it back. And this is a great thing for us, actually, because as you can see here, they probably don't have military access into this country right here, and so they're going to have to go through this fort to get to our country. But since that fort's under our control, they will have to lay siege to the entire fort before they can attack us. So we're just going to hit OK here, and then we are going to attack them, because their morale is still pretty low, and they're going to try and retreat, but they're probably not going to have enough time. Yep. And so you can see we have pretty much almost even numbers, but that is going to set them fleeing, and then we could potentially follow them. And so granary fire, we're just going to go for this. And we might at this point, because this was really an unplanned for war. As you can recall, we were trying to get allies with these guys, but they decided that was clearly not in their interests. So you can head over to that super piece, as you saw me do, and then click any green area that that means it's available for taking. And so you see we get 3 aggressive expansion and 28 is value. If it goes above 100, you're not able to make the treaty, which can be annoying if you're taking out a large area because you just won't be able to do it. You can see we do have a high score, still 17, which means we can potentially take out something if it doesn't have a fort. But if you notice the lay of the land, especially with really small countries, they're just one single fort. They're a city-state, or more like a fort-state. So they just have one single fort. So we are just gonna take what we got because that was an unplanned for war, and so we're gonna enemies are no quarter, and then it'll say what they gave to us, and so that was the end of the war. So it's a pretty quick war, and we still do have that other war that was been going on this entire time, and this nation is probably regretted whatever it did, unless this nation declared war on it. But it's kind of, it doesn't have anything. So we're just going to send our troops and help take out that city there. Maybe they'll give it to us, but probably they're going to take it for themselves, which is what I would do if I was playing this as this nation. And so we might just want to become friends with this person. That, could be useful, just as that said. And right as we're about to get there, you can see that that nation, or whatever these guys are called, I probably should know what they're called. Messenia, just lay siege to that and just took it. And so that's going to be about it for this episode. We just declare war, kind of establishing a bit of a foothold on this little island over here. And so I'll see you again next time.